This isn't just a story, it's a cry from the soul of nature. Somewhere in the hushed wilderness just outside Bend, Oregon, where the trees still hold snow in late spring like old memories refusing to melt and the forest begins. Only steps from your back door, a silent loss triggered a journey no one could have imagined. That night, one of the 5 puppies didn't make it. He was just 4 weeks old, soft, blind-eyed, barely walking, and still tethered to the comfort of milk and warmth. Anna found him after sunset, still, breathless. Curled in the far corner of the kennel like sleep had taken him too deep to return. Nala, her Alaskan Malamute and the puppy's mother, lay nearby, quiet and still as ice, but something in her gaze had broken. She didn't whimper. She didn't look at Anna. Without a word, she stood, pressed her heavy frame through the unlocked gate, and disappeared into the whispering trees. For the first time in her life, she walked away from home. The woman shouted her name into the growing dark. Her flashlight danced over pine needles and snow-draped branches, catching nothing but shadows. Her husband drove up and down the old logging roads, tires crunching over frost and worry, but the trees gave no answers. That night, as darkness drowned the forest and the wind moaned with a voice too ancient to understand, Anna wrapped herself in a blanket on the porch and whispered Nala's name into the void. She was gone. Malamutes are strong, but not invincible, especially not out here. The righteous care for the needs of their animals, but the kindest acts of the wicked are cruel. But the next morning, before the sun could warm the frost, off the cedar planks, there came a sound, scratching, urgent, familiar. At the back door stood Nala, soaked, shivering, her fur laced with snowmelt. Her eyes were hollow, as if something wild and far older had stared back at her during the night. But it wasn't just her. Hanging from her jaws, limp as rain-drenched moss, was something small and rust-colored. Anna blinked. At first, she thought it was a rabbit, but the shape was wrong. The paws too big. The ears tufted, the fur faintly spotted. It was a baby bobcat. Nala padded in past the stunned woman, dripping onto the hardwood floor. She walked straight to the wall heater and placed the kitten down on the thick wool blanket like sacred offering. The kitten barely moved. His tiny ribs quivered. His eyes were closed, blood crusted around one paw, and his breath, when it came, was a soft, broken whisper. Anna knelt to help, but Nala didn't let her. The great dog lowered her head across the kitten's back, guarding, breathing warmth into his broken body. The air itself felt like it held its breath. Even the wild beasts cry out. But I will not turn away from one soul in need. The kitten didn't cry. His fur was matted with old blood and mud. A wound crawled down one leg, raw but shallow. What frightened Anna wasn't the injury, but the eyes, half open, feral, wide, but vacant. When she reached for him again, Nala growled, low and deep, a thundercloud trapped in fur. Anna froze, her hands hovering. "It's okay," she whispered. But Nala didn't blink. She hovered over the tiny wild body like a storm standing guard over something sacred. The puppy's blanket lay across the room. Anna stepped back. Nala moved. Gently, reverently, she took the bobcat into her mouth again, not as prey, not as possession, but as purpose. She carried him to the whelping box where her 4 remaining puppies slept. The bobcat trembled but inched forward, stiff, wounded, driven. His nose found her belly. One puppy scooted aside. Another curled behind Nala's legs. The kitten latched. Anna stood frozen, 100 thoughts slamming her chest. Was this safe? Was it disease? Had he been stolen from his wild mother? Had Nala taken him from a den? But Nala didn't seem confused. She licked the kitten's ear, nestled him close, draped her body over all 5 like she'd done since the beginning. One was wild. But all were hers now. He gives the beasts their food and the young ravens when they cry. By the second day, the wild in him twitched. He bit one of the puppies, a flash of instinct, sharp teeth, a startled yelp. Anna turned from the stove, just in time to see a pup tumble back, crying. The bobcat crouched, tail twitching, eyes narrowed, primal. The puppy shrank from him. Anna rushed forward, but Nala blocked her path. She growled again. This time, not at the bobcat, at Anna, a warning, sharp, controlled, protective. Anna had never heard that sound from her dog before. It wasn't confusion, it was choice. Anna backed away, heart pounding. That night she told her husband. He didn't hesitate. He's wild, he said. He could kill one of them. We can't let sympathy blind us. Anna wanted to protest. He's just a baby, she whispered. But her voice was unsure, even to herself. By morning, the pup was fine. No blood, no bruising. But the room had changed. The bobcat had changed. He watched the humans with sharp eyes now. He hissed when they came close, flattened against the wall like shadow. But Nala was his son. He relaxed when she entered. Rolled onto his side, nudged her with that tiny broken nose. He didn't want humans. He only wanted her. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Anna called the wildlife rehab center, left a message, then another. She didn't say she had him. Just that a bobcat kitten had come close to their property and they needed guidance, silence. The forest whispered louder than any human voice that week. So Anna stayed on the couch, watching, observing. The kitten's legs grew stronger, his eyes clearer, his leap sharper. But his play still had the edge of the wild, claws, speed, instincts sharp as bone. He never hurt the pups again. But he didn't play like them, and yet he never left Nala's side. He shadowed her, her movement, her stillness, her heartbeat. Sometimes she licked his face. Sometimes she ignored him. But he stayed, as if her breath was the only thing anchoring him to this world. One morning, Anna walked in and found Nala chewing something in the corner. Meat, raw, sinewy, not store-bought, not dog food. Nala had hunted. Brought back food, not for herself, but for him. The lioness does not abandon the orphan of the forest when her heart is full of grace. This wasn't just survival. It was a miracle stitched in fur and frost, held together by the ancient bond between animal and the quiet, aching awe of the humans who bore witness. In that little cabin beyond the snowy woods of Oregon, something sacred had taken root, not logic, not safety, but love, raw, primal, untamed. A wild kitten should never have belonged. But he did. Because one grieving mother walked into the forest and came back not just with hope, but with a reason to protect again. Prepare yourself for the wild to change your heart, because love knows no species. The bobcat sat beside her, his tiny fangs tearing through raw meat, his wide, primal eyes flickering with the fire's soft glow, the light of the hearth catching the hunter in him. He was wild, a predator born of frost and forest. But Nala didn't see that. She treated him as if he were made of the same breath that birthed her puppies, no different, no less deserving. A mother's love doesn't measure by blood. It sees only need. In that still cabin in Oregon's snow-shadowed woods, time bent as something ancient and holy played out between fur and firelight. That's when the voicemail came, just after noon. Anna was in the kitchen, dish towel damp in her trembling hands, staring out the window when her phone buzzed. She answered on reflex, lifting it to her ear as her mind still lingered on the bobcat's quiet chewing. The voice on the other end was calm. Too calm, bureaucratic, cold. You're not licensed to house or rehabilitate wild animals. It's a violation of both state and federal wildlife law. You need to surrender the animal immediately to an authorized facility, the call ended. But the words didn't, they hung in the room like frost that won't melt. Surrender immediately. She played it again and again. Each time the sentence carved deeper into her chest, a command, a warning, a threat. A righteous person regards the life of their beast, but justice without compassion is a cruel blade. Anna didn't tell her husband, not yet. She walked back into the living room, phone heavy in her back pocket, and sat on the edge of the couch like someone sitting at the edge of a cliff, knowing the fall is coming. The bobcat lay nestled between two of the puppies. His injured leg was healing now, the crust of the wound flaking off like snow from sun-warmed bark. He looked like them in size and softness in the way he curled against warmth, But Anna saw it, that shadow of difference that clung to him. His eyes were too sharp, his silence too deep. He was not one of them, not truly. But Nayla never hesitated. She sprawled across the old blanket like a bridge made of bone and breath, her frame thinner now, ribs pushing against her once strong sides. She hadn't been eating, too busy feeding her babies, all 5 of them, even the one who never belonged. The bobcat stirred then, pouncing at a puppy's wagging tail. The puppy yipped back. They tumbled together in gentle chaos, clumsy limbs tangled in innocence. And Anna watched it all, her heart pulled in 2 directions. She pulled out her phone, turned on the camera, hit record. Her voice cracked the moment she opened her mouth. "We didn't plan for this," she whispered, the screen shaking. "He wasn't supposed to be ours." "I know that, I know." Her throat tightened. Tears pressed against her voice, asterisk. "But he doesn't know he's different. And I'm afraid if we send him away, he won't understand why." The video stopped. She saved it, then closed the phone slowly, like it might explode in her hand. She knew what had to happen. But knowing and accepting are not the same. God does not ask us to understand all things, only to love in the moment we are called. He didn't ask, and she didn't stop him. Past midnight she heard it, the soft click of the door, boots. On frozen earth, the sound of absence beginning. She stayed in bed, her eyes open, heart clenched, listening to the silence stretch into something unbearable. He returned nearly an hour later, no words. Just the sound of a jacket falling to the floor, water running over guilt, and the quiet creak of the couch as he lay down. By morning, the bobcat was gone. The blanket near the heater lay untouched. No paw prints, no tufts of fur, no trail. Like he'd never been there at all, but the room knew. Anna moved through it like a ghost. She fed the pups, filled Nala's bowl, started a load of laundry and left it unfinished like her breath. But the silence was too sharp, too wrong, even Nala knew. She paced the floor, nose to ground, searching corners, sniffing shadows. She sat at the back door for hours, waiting for a sound that wouldn't come. And then, slowly, she began to cry. It wasn't a howl. Not even a whimper. Just a sound born from deep inside, low, hollow, vibrating with grief that words couldn't carry. Her ears flattened. Her breath came in gasps. She didn't eat. At dusk, she left. The back door had been cracked open just enough. Anna found it swinging on its hinges. Nala was already gone. No leash, no hesitation. Just paw prints pressed into fresh snow, trailing down into the trees behind the house, the same woods that took her once before. Anna followed only to the edge of the hill where memory met wilderness. She knew where Nala had gone. There was a place, forgotten, sacred. A cedar tree split by lightning, under which their last dog lay buried. Nala had gone there often. But this time she wasn't going to mourn. She was going to look. The Lord is near to the broken-hearted and saves the crushed in spirit. Anna waited 2 hours, then 3. The porch light glowed behind her. The wind whispered through the pines like a lullaby with no words. When Nala returned, her fur was soaked, her legs streaked with dirt and pine needles. She didn't come in. She lay down on the back step, head resting on the stair, eyes locked on the forest. She didn't lift her gaze when Anna approached. She just breathed, shallow, tired, undone. Anna knelt behind her, wrapped a blanket around her back, and for the first time in days, she wept. Not just for the bobcat, but for Nala, for the babies lost, for the ache of doing the right thing. When love demanded something else, that's when it happened. The sound, barely audible, a scratch, then another. Not frantic, not wild, just hesitant. Anna stood at the kitchen sink, hands submerged in cooling dishwater, staring into her reflection in the window. She almost missed it. At first, she thought it was wind. Then came the third scrape claw on wood. A pause, then a final, gentle question carved into the grain of the door. She moved slowly, like the air itself didn't want her to disturb what might be waiting. She opened the door, and everything stopped. Rejoice with those who return from the wilderness, for even the lost can find their way back to love. There he was, the bobcat, smaller than she remembered. His fur filthy, soaked, leaves clinging to his sides. Like sorrow, blood matted one foreleg. A gash ran the length of it, crusted over but raw around the edges. His breathing was shallow, too quick. His ears twitched. But he didn't growl, didn't hiss, didn't even meet her eyes. Instead, he limped forward, stepped past her like fog crossing through the door. Anna turned, heart thudding. Nala was already on her feet. She moved as if drawn by an invisible thread, stepping toward him with calm urgency. He stopped just before her, swaying. Nala dipped her head, sniffed his face gently, then licked the side of his jaw, once, twice, slowly, tenderly, her tongue brushed away. Days of dust and pain like she had been waiting to make him whole again. She lay down without a word. He curled beside her, pressing his ribs to her warmth. He tucked his injured paw under himself and closed his eyes, and this time, no one stopped him. The bobcat was faster, a blur from the edge of the trees. He closed the distance like shadow given form. Silent and sure. In one leap, he was between the terrier and the pup. Back arched, teeth bared, ears flattened in a snarl that split the air. The terrier skidded to a stop, hackles raised, but it was too late to change its mind. The bobcat didn't strike first. Not yet, but his message was clear, Anna shouted then, voice cracking from the force of it, but neither animal flinched. They stood frozen for half a heartbeat, the wild and the domestic, predator and pet, stitched into a single thread of tension. Then the terrier lunged. It was fast, a blur of teeth and fur, but the bobcat was faster still. He ducked low, twisted and struck, not to kill, just enough. A swipe that knocked the terrier sideways, sent it tumbling into the mud, yelping. The bobcat stepped forward once, twice, growling now. Controlled, measured, and then stopped. The terrier scrambled up and bolted through the broken fence without a backward glance. The yard was silent. Even the wind had paused. Anna dropped to her knees beside the stunned puppy. It was fine, shaken but unhurt. She pulled it close, burying her face in its soft fur. Behind her, she heard Nala approach, sniffing over the pup with a mother's concern before giving it a slow lick. Then she turned to the bobcat. He was breathing hard, sides rising and falling with the weight of adrenaline, but his eyes were clear, alert, watching. Anna met his gaze and whispered, "Thank you." He blinked. Once, slow and steady, then padded toward the porch. Nala followed. Together, they lay down side by side, backs touching. Their bodies a wall between the world and the pups. That night, the town buzzed. Marlene posted again, this time with blurry footage from her upstairs window. The bobcat, the terrier, the confrontation. It wasn't clear who struck first. It didn't need to be. Opinions split like lightning through the comments. Some praised the animal for protecting the puppy. Others called it proof of danger. Animal control received 5 calls before sunrise. By morning, Anna was ready. She stood at the porch with the bobcat curled beside her, Nala at her feet and the puppies tumbling in the grass. A news van pulled up. She didn't hide. She told the truth. She told them how he came broken. How he stayed gentle. How he protected what he loved. She didn't ask them to understand. She just asked them to see. The bobcat never left. Again. Not completely. He came and went with the dusk, moving like breath through the trees, but always returned to the same door, the same bed, the same heart. They stopped calling him Stray. They stopped calling him Danger. Eventually, they stopped calling at all. He was home. From the tree line, it came, a streak of rust and fury, barely a whisper against the wind. The bobcat, he wasn't ready, not fully. His body still carried the stories of wounds half-healed and battles not yet forgotten. But when the danger came, sharp-teethed, snarling, charging straight for the smallest heartbeat in the yard, he didn't pause. He chose. His paws scraped the earth, his ribs shuddered with impact, and he threw himself between the tiny pup. And the terrier-like instinct had summoned something older than fear. His body dropped low, back curved like a drawn bow, front paw outstretched, claws half-sheathed. His ears folded flat, and then he screamed, not a sound meant for soft ears, not human, not tame. It was the sound of bones remembering what it is to shatter, a scream that cut the sky in half, not loud, sharp, sharp like winter's first breath. Sharp like survival, the terrier froze. Something inside it faltered, confused by this contradiction, a creature so wrong, yet so terrifyingly right, wild, small, but still the wild. A beat later, Nala arrived. Not running, rising. She moved like mountains do, slow, inevitable. Her silence was thunder in waiting. And when the terrier felt her shadow fall over it, it broke, it spun, it ran. Back through the fence, back into the world it came from. Anna couldn't move. Not even to breathe. Her soul held still, wrapped. In awe, the puppy, the bobcat, he turned, nudged the pup softly as if to say, "You're okay now." Then he walked to Nala, his body touching hers, curling beneath her front leg, not to show strength, not for pride, but because something inside him, ancient and wordless, whispered, "This is mine, and I will keep it safe." This was no ordinary animal rescue. This was an animal miracle, a wild bond carved in fire and healing. This was survival made sacred. 2 months later, the sun still touched the earth like it remembered how to love it. But the wind, it had changed. It whispered differently now, speaking in the brittle tongue of coming cold. The trees wore shadows longer. The air tasted like waiting. And the bobcat, he began to disappear, not all at once, not cruelly, first for hours, then a day. Then, a night. Anna would glance toward the tree line and tell herself it was fine. "He's growing," she whispered. "He's wild." That was always the plan, wasn't it? But love, even wild love, doesn't ask for permission to ache. The porch felt empty. The bowl remained full. The blanket remained untouched. The night grew thicker. The silence began to hum. Not the silence of peace, the silence of after. The puppies grew. Awkward, beautiful creatures now, clumsy legs chasing ghosts through the leaves, barking at clouds. But Nala, she changed. She didn't run anymore, didn't bark, didn't play. Every evening she'd walk to the back door and wait. Not to go out, not for food. She simply waited, eyes fixed on the tree line like a prayer cast into darkness. Anna watched her. And one night, as snow began to fall, soft, apologetic, like the sky was trying not to break anything, Anna whispered to the silence, "He's gone." Not to Nala, not even to herself, just to the dark. There was no answer. Only stillness, but some goodbyes aren't endings. Some hearts leave only to make space for the ache of having loved something. Uncontia. Late winter, not quite spring, not quite death. The trees had begun to surrender their frost, revealing skin beneath bark. The air smelled like endings pretending to be beginnings. And that's when it happened. Anna was stacking wood by the shed when Nala stopped breathing, not literally, but with that kind of stillness, alert, ancient, a statue, made of muscle and mourning. Her ears flicked forward, her eyes narrowed. Anna followed her gaze. At the edge of the woods, standing still, standing tall, was a shadow, a shape, no longer small, no longer broken, the bobcat, but different, taller, leaner, his fur thicker. Now the color of dying fire in early dusk, he stood half in shadow, half in light, like all wild things do. Like he always had? His eyes met Anna's, met Nala's. He didn't move forward, didn't come home. He didn't need to, because he was home. In them, in the porch, in the bowl that still sat, gathering dust and faith. After a moment, he turned, melted back into the woods. Like he'd never been, what he had. And everything knew it. They never saw him again, but the wind, sometimes it changed, and when it did, Nala lifted her head. Some stories don't end in hugs, some stories end in stillness, in bowls left full, in snow falling on silence, in breath held at the edge of trees. But that doesn't mean they not love stories. That doesn't mean they're not miracles. This was a wild bond. A touching animal story that crossed the lines of law, instinct, and fear. It wasn't just about an animal. It was about what happens when we dare to love something that was never meant to stay. He was never meant to belong. But for a time, he was chosen. For a time, he belonged, and maybe that's what makes it a miracle. A Jungle Diaries. Every story We tell carries a heartbeat, a cry from the wild, a whisper from the hurt. A song from the rescued. This was more than just a dramatic wildlife rescue. This was a spiritual reminder of how the line between human and animal is sometimes nothing but breath. When you watch, when you share, you aren't just spreading a video, you're spreading compassion, you're lighting a signal fire for every animal still waiting in the dark. Animal rescue is not just love, it is responsibility, it is grief and healing, it is conservation wrapped in kindness. Join us. Be the voice for those who can only scream. Be the warmth for those who have only known the cold. Subscribe to Jungle Diaries, where every viral YouTube story is more than a moment. It's a movement.